Looks like we're ready to go. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the regular meeting of the Solvang City Council for Monday, April 25th, 2022. I now call the meeting to order at 6:31 p.m. Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll?
Councilmember Clark,
I'm here.
Mayor Pro Tem Infante,
Present.
Councilmember Arona,
Here.
Councilmember Thomas,
Here.
Mayor Urick.
Here. And Mr. Infante, would you please lead us in the flag?
You stand, please, with your hand over your heart, and we'll start. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for that. Moving on to the first item on the agenda, Madam City Manager.
Thank you. So I would like to invite Claudia Stephenson, one of our newer employees, to come up and receive an award for being Employee of the Quarter. So Claudia has joined the city just a few months ago, but she has already earned the fourth quarter of this new program as the fourth Employee of the Quarter, completing the whole year. As Employee of the Quarter, she was nominated for essentially never having a bad day at work.
That's not possible.
Claudia does all of the payroll and also all of the AP, and she has in a short time frame already managed to really streamline those two operations and doing them very quickly and efficiently, and everybody's very appreciative of her never having a bad day. So thank you, Claudia. Her family is here doing
Let's do a picture with the mayor and Zena and Claudia, and then have the family come in too.
Wow.
Oh, I get to keep that. There we go.
Lovely.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
High up, David.
Oh, sorry. Let's do one more for Claudia and the angles. 1, 2, 3.
Very nice.
Family, you guys want to join her for a picture?
Yeah, that's
Oh,
cool.
yeah, come on. Oh, sweet.
Oh.
All right, ready? 1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3.
Thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you. Thank you.
Congratulations. Thanks, Anna. This is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, you guys.
Thank you. Right. Great job, Claudia. Thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, and now some presentations. Moving on to the first, the 2022 3CE Annual Member Agency Presentation. Will that be in person?
Is there anybody on Zoom that's joining us from 3CE? If you could turn on your mic. I'm not seeing a representative. Why don't we just go ahead and maybe go to the second presentation?
All right. And I know I saw Shelby come on up for the Visit San Ynez Valley Annual Report.
All right. Thank you. Oh my gosh, Solvang City Council, Mayor Urick. First I have to say congratulations on your 22 years in retirement.
Thank you.
Thank you for your service. And the City of Solvang, I'm sure, is really happy to have more of your time coming up. So thank you. All right. Do we have the PowerPoint?
We do. If you could just pull up.
Okay, so hopefully you've gone over the report or had time to go over the report. I'm just going to do a few highlights. I don't see it over here anymore, huh? It's just up there.
It's just
Okay, got it.
no more projectors.
All right. As you know, you graciously renewed our contract in January of 2021. It took effect on July 1st. We went from $2.50, thank you, to $3. So in comparison from 2021, we had a 28.7% increase in funding, and that took into account that 50 cents increase in July. So it was a really good year. It was a pent up, you can get outside and come and visit places. That will be our challenge in 22, is that to keep that momentum going, because everyone wanted to get outside in 21. We paused member dues from April 1st, 2020 till November 1st of 21. And so we started charging people again in 21 in November. And I'm very proud to say that 218 of those members have come back so far. So we haven't hardly lost any membership once we started asking people to pay again. All right, advertising. We continue to showcase our Place to Be campaign, which played off the diverse offerings to be found in the 6 communities of the Santa Ynez Valley. And then we introduced our See You in the SYV campaign, both targeted drive markets in greater Los Angeles, and you see that Bay Area, Inland California, and our direct flight markets. Google search was remarkable in that way that it was up by 12% from the 12.5, and the cost per click went down 16.9%. We did restaurant weeks. Even though we were in COVID and lockdown, we didn't give up on it. We did the takeout edition. And it was very successful. We had 27 restaurants and 24 wineries that participated. And again, the community really supported everybody in that. It really worked out well. We introduced I should change these to go along. Restaurant weeks, midweek. We introduced the midweek campaign, Sunday through Thursday, come to the Santa Ynez Valley. And this was a trial run that we only ran for a month and a half. And so if you came and stayed with us from Sunday through Thursday, during that time, I think it was March and April, we would give you $60 to go and play around with in town. And for that month and a half, incredibly successful. We had over 73 people participate and brought in just over $12,000 to our hoteliers. We did run it again this first quarter from January till we're just ending up in April. So we ran it for 4 months, and I'll report on that at the end of the year, how we did. Editorial value, amazing, just under $3.5 million in editorial value, 10% increase in the year prior. Notable coverage was we were named one of the best 50 places to travel in 2022. Do this again, there we go. Now it's really 51 because on that list also they also had space. So we were one of the top 51 places in the universe to visit in 2022. Yeah, very cool. Key takeaways were that, again, just the direct searches to our hoteliers was up over 100% from 2020. Visit widget. We had somebody, I'm going to keep up with myself here when I do this. We got an app. We have an app for that. Discover the Santa Ynez Valley, or Discover Santa Ynez Valley. We did that in last year. And so you can go there, you can click on to find out about wineries, you can find out about hoteliers, you can find out about activities and create itineraries for yourself, and it'll map it out. We had over 4,000 people use it, and it was downloaded by over almost 1,000 folks in just this first year. All right, click it, Shelby. We were on the road whenever we could be, whenever COVID opened up for a minute for us to do things. So we went to IPW in Vegas. IPW is the largest travel trade show in the United States, where the world comes to learn about what you have at your destination. And so we were there. I do the media room, so I meet with about 20, it's like speed dating, 2 minutes, and I met with like 22 different media from around the world to invite them out to the Santa Ynez Valley. Danielle, our Vice President of Marketing, and Kathy Vreeland from Discover Buellton worked the booth and did more group sales over those 3 days. We did the Telluride Wine Festival. Really big wallets in Telluride. And we decided that we would again go out of the box. We're the first destination marketing organization to go to this festival to really promote our sense of place. Come on out to the Santinas Valley. Here's some great wine. You know, it's really a cool place. It's just like Telluride. Come on out to that spot. We also went to Destinations International. And Destinations International is a worldwide tourism industry event. So we have found when we go to the western states of like DMA West and such that we learn, okay, we're doing good. It's a bellwether, like, okay, we're doing good. But when we go to these international events, we find we learn new stuff. We learn what Amsterdam's doing and other places around the world are doing. I was invited to speak on a panel for Cal Travel, which focuses on legislation. And I spoke on a small DMO, which is what we are, on how we dealt with COVID and how we recovered from COVID. So that was really cool and great recognition for our area to be amongst the players in California. And then also invited to the California Hotel and Lodging Association, their conference in Napa. It's primarily a hotel owner and hotel group spot or event. But great to mingle and learn what other hoteliers are doing in other areas. And then the big one is ESTO. ESTO is U.S. Travel's educational seminar. So the whole United States comes to this event, and it was in Los Angeles this last year. And we won a national award for Best Digital Campaign for the place to be. We were the finalists were Visit Savannah and San Francisco. And you can just imagine when they had it up on the screen, that whole room, it was, you know, Visit Savannah, San Francisco, visit the Santinas Valley. Just to have our names up there was a big deal. And then we won. We won the Best Digital Campaign. That was a really, really cool thing. Yeah, very, very cool.
What is ESTO?
It's an Educational Seminar Tourism Organization. Ha! Pulled that out of, yeah, thank you.
Made that up.
Yeah. All right, grants. Again, it was a COVID year, but we helped out where we could. And so we gave a total of almost $24,000 out. And this year, we've already given that much out in just 2022. So we're expecting about $60,000 this year to go out to help other events. And then finally, PPE was a big thing, you know, last year, and now we have plenty, so let us know if you're short of any masks or sanitizer. But with our partnership with the California Hotel and Lodging Association, we're able to provide protective gear for all of our staffing. And don't want to close it on that, so let's talk about what's next. We are now implementing and almost implemented, we're with a vendor that can tell us where our visitors come from, where they spend their money, how much time they spend, and where they're going. So our occupancy is not completely accurate yet. We still need to get some numbers from other hoteliers, but this shows us the top, where they come from, again, where they're spending, and where it's all going. Incredibly powerful data. You know, a lot of times, and I've been in this job about 7.5, almost 8 years now, and people ask, well, you know, measurements, and I'm told by my colleagues that have been in the job for a lot longer, well, we're inspiration, Shelby, we're inspiration. Now we can measure it. Now we can actually measure. We can measure how many people come to events. We can measure where they're coming from, where they're going. Do they only stay in Solvang? Are they checking out the other towns? Are they only going to Los Alamos? Are they coming out to other towns? How many nights are they staying? Incredible data that we'll continue to flesh out and learn and report on in the coming year. And with that, thank you again.
Thank you for that report.
Yes.
Are there any questions?
Yes.
Go ahead, Mark.
Go ahead.
Just keep pushing that midweek.
Right on.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Please.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm curious with the measurements that you have. Are you able to measure what the impact is of a local event? So we have a car show coming up here shortly. And I'm curious what the impact on something like that is to the city and the community in general.
Right? Yes, we can. Super excited. Yeah, no, Danish Days, right? And
Yeah.
4th of July. You know, the theater fest that is going through, you know, they say it's 40% are overnighters that come here, right? We'll be able to quantify that. We'll be able to know. It's very, very exciting. Yeah. Yeah.
And congratulations again on that award.
Thank you.
Well deserved, I might add. So
Thank you. Thank you.
thank you on behalf of the entire San Ynez Valley.
Yeah, appreciate it. All right.
Thanks, Shelby.
All right, moving on to public communications. Madam Clerk, would you please read the rules?
The council welcomes your input. At this time, you may address the council on items not on the agenda and consent agenda. Time limit is 3 minutes. We will start with in-person public comments first.
I do have one speaker slip, so Jennifer, Sodi.
Good evening. It's my
Good evening.
pleasure to be here again. I wanted to comment on Copenhagen. I think it looks very lovely, and thank you for putting it together. I'm still on the same page on wanting to see something move down the road as far as our city and community. However, for where it is, we've had good turnouts and we're grateful. Beyond that, I've had several comments from other businesses on things that were pre-COVID, on encroachment permits, on businesses having equanimity. And I've emailed some of you about that, and the comments still continue, and I still get emails about that. I've seen Paula's Pancakes, I think it's Paula's, or maybe it was Olson's, that have removed some of the pre-COVID barriers. But then there are other businesses, communities, whether they're bakeries, restaurants, tiki bar, some that still have some parquettes that are possibly not into code. Maybe they are. But it appears to others that we removed our parquettes, and other businesses are still able to put seating in certain designation areas on the street. If that's the case, if they're able to do that, then I would recommend that all of us that have done our removal are able to put our positions, our seating back in that area on the street. Otherwise, if you want to remove it all, like Mr. Infinite said. Make it back to pre-COVID. We're seeing that still on, the Brewing Company that still has their iron fencing, their grass, and that was only given pre-COVID or during COVID with the understanding, and I was here in that council meeting, that it would go back to pre-COVID for parking. If parking is an issue, as it has been said by each and every one of you, I hold you accountable to all of our businesses with our licensing in the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. I know all of that's being looked into, but my understanding, we're looking into it because I know it's a process. So, we're short-staffed on a lot of things, and it does take time. Took 2.5 weeks to get just Copenhagen done. So I appreciate the business's patience with the city at this time, but I know that all of that is being looked at. So
Thank you. It does look nice on Copenhagen. You all did a good
a
job.
lot of cars.
A lot of cars, and we
Lot of
had a
cars.
lot of favorable business on the inside. So good job.
That was the only speaker slip I had for in-house. Is there anyone else just wishing to make any comments on any items that are not on the agenda and or that are on the consent agenda? Seeing none, take it out to Zoom. Is there anyone in Zoom wishing to speak on any item that is not on the regular calendar and/or is on the consent agenda? Bringing it back, we'll close public comments and now move on to the city manager's report.
Thank you. If we could have my slides up. Actually, my first slide is addressing the Copenhagen Drive and the comments that were just spoken about. So Copenhagen Drive has been reopened entirely as of April 18th. Of that morning, there's, yes, as has been mentioned, lots of cars on Copenhagen again. We are continuing to work with all of the businesses throughout town and not just on Copenhagen to have them remove any temporary seating arrangements that were allowed during COVID only. So the businesses on Mission Street have been prioritized for that. There's some other ones that are in process of either having their temporary seating removed or working with our planning department for those who may be eligible to expand into private seating area for as long as they meet all of the city municipal code requirements, which may require parking, if any parking is being lost, and also restroom capacity.
Do we have time frame on that?
So they, all the businesses that are definitely to have removed their belongings were noticed to remove them as of last week. We need to go back into town and make sure that they have all complied. As I mentioned, there is a few businesses that have expanded into private courtyards to where we are working with them if they want to apply for a permanent application. As long as they meet all of the requirements, we'll continue to work with them. So it's a work in progress. I want to address the comment about the brewing company, which actually had gone through a process of permanent approval to have their outdoor patio, and that item was in front of city council, and the parking fees were waived at the time. So that is not being removed. It's a permanent expansion on their part. We are also continuing to work through the general plan update on the concept that you have approved or voted for as part of your city council goals, which is to continue to work on looking at potential alternatives and locations if for a European type plaza and a walk-in promenade type of area. So that conversation will continue. There will be additional conversations and public meetings scheduled for that in the next several months through the general plan update, and we'll be working with our consultant and the community to have those discussions and have that dialogue about which areas may be more feasible for that type of project. And based on those discussions, we'll move forward with presenting any options to you for your approval and a potential project to develop that. I want to mention that as all of you walk by the Solvang Park, it is currently still closed off. We have very nice looking grass there that's almost set and ready to go. We also have a brandly repainted gazebo that will look much nicer, so we look forward to reopening and revealing the newly upgraded park for all the summer celebrations. So the first celebration that we will see at the park is actually coming up on April 30th for the Datsun Roadster Car Show. The park will be reopened by the 27th, so it will be ready to go. And then, of course, we'll be looking for toward all of the next events that will also be taking place on Mission downtown and the Solvang Park. There will be the 2 events on May 7th, which is the Solvang Half Marathon in the morning and our Rancheros Visitadores in the afternoon. We have the June 18th, Juneteenth event in the park, and then on June 24th, we have a proposed Pierce Aero Society card show, and on June 25th, the new event, which is Santinas Valley Pride event, which will become coming. It was recommended by the Tourism Advisory Committee as a new event. It will have a parade and will be coming to City Council for approval at your next meeting. Once again, just reminding everybody about the general plan update. There will be another housing element workshop scheduled for May 11th. We are distributing those materials in both English and Spanish throughout town as flyers and also email blasts. And later this week, the GPAC will begin its work for the first update of the general plan element, which will be then presented to the Planning Commission and subsequently to City Council. I wanted to give you a quick update, an overview of what's happening at the committees and commissions. So the Design Review Committee met on Thursday, April 21st, 2022. One of the projects that may be of note to you all was the preliminary review of a project that's proposed to be on the corner of Mission and Alisal. That's that corner lot. To where Ed St. George is actually proposing this project of having boutique little hotels. So what you see in the photograph here on the left was presented as kind of the theme board of what it would look like. So he's looking for essentially a miniature chapel, miniature windmill, and about 12 cottages, as far as I remember, proposed to be at that corner. So that project is expected to be submitted now that it's received a positive overview from the Design Review Committee for the preliminary review, and it will go through all the process of approvals and eventually come to City Council if it moves forward. On Thursday, May 19th, the DRC will begin its work looking at the community design element, and after they hold that special session, there's also a regular session at 5 o'clock where there's a few projects coming up, which one of them would be the Sensum Cleaning project approval. They will be looking at the old Lumberyard Hotel for preliminary review. The Planning Commission has already commented on that project from their perspective, and the design committee will be looking at it from design perspective. There's also the old Union Bank proposed project for European Deli that will be coming for review, and finally 3 cottages on Fur right behind the park building. The Planning Commission will actually have a short meeting on May 7th or May 2nd at 6 p.m. where they would be looking at continued conversation for modifications to Title 11, providing additional clarification for definition of what type of walk-up service windows are allowed or not allowed in the TRC zone. So that would be the final recommendations from Planning Commission that will be coming back to City Council. And they would also be, we are asking them for continued discussion on food trucks regulations and how those apply, or what regulations should apply on private property in downtown. Now moving on to advanced calendar, on May 9th, we'll take a look at where we are financially in the current year. So we'll do the quarterly financial report for the third quarter. That will be a discussion looking at our revenues and expenditures to date, and how I think the revenues will be really the focus of that discussion, looking at how our community has recovered from COVID-19. As I've mentioned, there would be the item of SYV Pride event approval for your consideration. The public hearing to set the annual levy for Skid Mesa. You already had the first discussion set in this public hearing. And then we should also be ready to have our new police chief provide us with an annual presentation on law enforcement stats for City of Solvang. On May 23rd will be the night of all financial plan development. So as part of that, he will be looking at our staff recommendations for in response to the major city goals which you have adopted for fiscal year 22-24. We'll be discussing the operating programs as proposed for that, and also the capital improvement programs. There will be the discussion and presentation of any grant applications that we have received which focus on humanitarian services and senior services. There's some special events funding requests which have been funded on consistent basis throughout the years. Chamber of Commerce has proposed a funding request for economic development work with the city. And then of course there's continued funding requests from the Solvang Theater for the next 2 years, and also the Senior Center requesting our assistance with the time when they are going to be under construction. We'll also have some discussions for code enforcement program as part of both the considerations for the program for fiscal year 22-24. We do have some budget left in this year, so there will be some proposals on how that could be utilized and then potentially rolled into the fiscal year 22-24, and utilized to just enhance that program throughout the busy summer season, as we'll see a lot of tourists in town, so we'll have some recommendations for that. And of course, in June, it will be a busy time for adoption of the financial plan. We'll also have all of the resolutions for the election, including our work to date by that time in the poll results for the sales tax and the TOT measure, as well as proposed language for that. Of course, the marketing and the visitor center contract awards will be presented to you based on the proposals that we receive. And you'll also have the Prop 218 hearing for the utilities rates adoption, as well as modifications to go with that for the drought ordinance. And that concludes my report.
Are there any questions of the report or comments? No? All right, moving on to council comments. Is there any council member wishing to speak? Oh, I'm sorry, Zena. Would you go back to your report, just to ask Clau, to the one section where it was asking for Spanish-speaking feedback? And if it would be possible to allow Clau to say something in Spanish regarding that?
Sure, we can do that.
If you could bring up that slide.
If we can bring up the slide general plan update.
It was the one
The one I'm
specifically about, yes, right there.
Ok, alrighty. Para nuestros miembros de la comunidad hispanohablante, el 11 de mayo vamos a tener una sesión donde vamos a hablar de el elemento de casa y vivienda aquí en nuestra comunidad. Va a estar en español. Ahorita estamos revisando el plan general, que es el plan en el que vemos cómo vamos a planear nuestra comunidad por los próximos 40 años, y es muy importante que nuestra comunidad participe y nos digan sus comentarios y sus necesidades acerca de vivienda aquí en nuestra comunidad de Solvang. Sabemos que es una situación muy difícil, entonces por eso es muy importante que participen. Los esperamos aquí otra vez el 11 de mayo para hablar sobre las necesidades de vivienda de nuestra comunidad. Esta junta va a ser en español. Gracias.
Thank you, Clau. Appreciate that. All right. Is there any council members wishing to make any comments?
Yes, it would be great if we could all get on the same page about what outside seating is allowed. There's some confusion because we see that there's still some encroachment on parking. It's not clear if it's public or if it's private, say that if it's on Mission Drive. We still continue to see some seating in what would appear to be city property. I've seen this outside of some restaurants in Copenhagen, and of course there's people that still have seating that is meant to be removed, that it hasn't been removed. And if that is something that is allowed, of course, the business community wants to know. So this is something that should be addressed.
Right. Any other comments?
Yeah.
Go ahead. Councilmember Infant.
Two things. Was it Wednesday? We went to the ribbon cutting. Three of us had the opportunity to be at the ribbon cutting for Sanyo Pecado. And Sanyo Pecado. Did I say that correct?
Yeah.
Thank you. If you haven't been there, you have to try it. This is some delicious stuff. Nice people, excellent people. It was really a very enjoyable event. Additionally, the mayor and I were at the Project Opioid meeting last week, I believe it was.
On Wednesday.
On Wednesday. This Wednesday, wasn't it?
Yep.
And this is again something that is being promoted throughout the county on how to take care of the opioid problem. We don't by the statistics, we don't have a specific problem in Solvang, and we have a very minor problem in San Ynez Valley. But close by, cities of Lompoc and Santa Maria have a lot of problems with it. A lot of deaths have occurred. And so what they're trying to do with this Project Opioid is to educate, provide the Narcan to help revive those who have accidentally taken it. They're finding it in marijuana, the fentanyl in marijuana, and it's killing people. There is a number of issues associated with that that need to be addressed, and this is what this Project Opioid meeting was all about. So I wanted to make everybody aware that we are taking a look and taking a part of that. And we'll keep reporting as we get more information. Thank you.
Yeah, I know sheriffs carry the Narcan in their vehicles for that purpose, so.
Yeah. All right, any other comments?
I have one. Just that Monday, Tuesday, this next week, I will be at a JPIA Government Leadership Conference in Palm Desert, and I will report back on May 9th as to how that went.
Excellent.
Yeah, and I'm going to be joining there too.
All right. Any last? No? Okay. So Councilmember Infante also talked about that Project Opioid seminar that we attended together, and it's good information for a lot of different people, and it's just something that even though we don't necessarily have an issue, it doesn't mean that it isn't happening here, and just it does happen here, and it's just not as frequent as it is in some of the other places. So it's good to get yourself educated on fentanyl, and the whole opioid problem that's out there, pervasive in our United States. I attended the Air Pollution Control District meeting. Mainly all that was about was just to approve Zoom options for meetings continued for the next 30 days.
That's what the library committee meetings are about too.
Yeah.
Just
You know, why we can't do it for longer than that, I don't know. But anyway, and then an SBCAG meeting same day. That one was a lot longer, but that one also, same thing, approved the Zoom options for meetings for anybody in the public and for any of us board of directors to be able to attend those meetings, which are the third Thursday of every month. And one of the items that was discussed at length was the Carp Rincon multi-use trail, which a month and a half ago, SBCAG designated some money, almost up to $6 million, that they were trying to utilize from a grant that was available funding for them to be able to utilize for it. However, they brought the project back to the council, and the council of City of Carpinteria made the decision after hearing a number of issues with the plan that they had initially approved, decided to look into another option. So that is mainly what is going to happen now. There's, I think, $550,000 that are available from ATP funding and RSTP funding for pre-construction work and surveys and engineering, and that'll be utilized. But looks like the $6 million that they were going to try to utilize, which they had to have the project going by August, is not going to make the date. So sadly, that funding availability was lost. Last Monday, I had the honor of representing Solvang. I don't know how I got it, but I got an invitation to meet Vice President Kamala Harris last week at Vandenberg, and was one of the 3 people that got selected to actually have a photo. So one of these days that'll come out, I'm sure. My dad and my wife are really proud of that. So anyway, that was one item last week. Also attended the open house on Saturday for Sano Pecado, and Miguel Limon, who's the new owner. It's kind of great to be able to see the kids from Solvang growing up coming back and then starting businesses. So that was pretty awesome to have him and his family and a number of friends out there that morning. Later that morning, while I was there, I met with Harlan Katz from the Dotson Roadshow, who's just coming up here, and we had about an hour meeting after that regarding some of the, hopefully some of the issues we're trying to take care of for the special event. One of which is to let everybody notice again that the Winston Hotel right there on Copenhagen will not be having driving in and out of it on Saturday only. So we were able to get a hold of the hotel person and let them know. But that will require a road closure, folks. So just so you're all aware, First Street, similar to the farmers market on Wednesdays, will be closed on Saturday for most of the day. And then, of course, the following week, we have the two events back-to-back requiring two different detour routes. Mission Drive will be closed a good majority of May 7th, that Saturday, from probably 7 a.m. in the morning to probably 4:30 in the afternoon at various times for the Wine Country Half Marathon in the morning and then the Rancheros Visitadores in the afternoon. So we're looking forward to having special events that can be back on Mission Drive, and hopefully we can have a great turnout to support all those people that are out there putting on those events. So be patient on Saturday, please. I think as far as SB CAG, there was also this coming Wednesday on the 27th at 5, there's a San Ynez Broadband Community Forum, which will be held by Econ Alliance. They have a schedule that they will be doing all of these forums throughout all the areas in Santa Barbara County for us, and we will have one here in Solvang, and I am not finding where I circled what date we are having ours here. I think it's Thursday, May 26th at 5:30, right here at Solvang City Hall. We are having our Econ Alliance Broadband Community Forum here. So those are some invitations that are out there coming up. I'm hopeful that the library was reopened today. I know that they had the closures for some of the computer turnover, switching out the computers, so they were closed this weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. However, they did have book sales, so I'm hoping that they were selling a lot of books on Saturday, and that was good. But the library is back open again, full service today, beginning today. So just wanted to let everybody know that. And then starting this coming Sunday down in South Coast, Cycle Mania will be going on, so promoting bikes in their various capacities, not motorbikes, but electric bikes and or pedal power bikes. So that'll be going on throughout the month of May. Another event sponsored by SB CAG. And lastly, as far as the food bank distribution, they didn't have one last week. So the one that they had 2 weeks ago on April 12th, served 197 households, 777 individuals new to the program. In April were 18. So the numbers went down a little bit. That's good to hear. And I'm not sure how long they are planning to go, but I know that they are needing volunteers for tomorrow for the distribution that they have in the morning and in the afternoon, or preparing for the distribution in the evening, but they need help in the morning getting all the packaging together. So with that, my final comments, that's all I have for right now.
Do we know for a fact that we're not gonna have the 3CE presentation?
I do not see the representative unless there's anybody on Zoom now representing 3C.
I'm actually,
There you go.
I'm here.
Okay, thank you. So we have, if you have the presentation, if you would like to just go ahead and share your screen.
Can you see the presentation?
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay. Good evening, Mayor and council members. I want to say thank you for the opportunity this evening to present the City of Solvang's annual member agency update. My name is Susan Davison. I'm known as a key account specialist with Central Coast Community Energy. Sorry. And CCAs offer an opportunity for communities to join together to choose the source of their electricity. So a city joins Central Coast Community Energy to gain more control over its electricity needs and in return provides economic and environmental benefits back into the community. We actually procure the energy, which is delivered via PG&E's transmission lines to you, the customer, every customer in your city. And the revenue that's generated by CCCE, by us, stays local and helps keep electricity rates lower for our customers while also funding our energy programs. We are actually one of 13 CCAs that collaborate with PG&E in this way, and there are 24 CCAs in California that serve more than $11 million in the state of California. This map here reflects our service area. We are actually the largest geographic in California, but then not the largest in energy service. And our service area, we have 33 communities. The city of Bealton actually enrolled in January of 2022, and the city of Atascadero voted to join us and will do so in early 2024. The last remaining area in the map, which you see there, is actually the unincorporated city of San Luis Obispo, who is still not participating. The city seat is shared with the cities of Guadalupe and Bealton, and Claudia Arona, the council member, is actually a current representative holding the shared seat on the policy board, and Zena Bradford, this year's city manager, is actually the current representative holding the shared seat on the operations board. As with all shared seats, the cities themselves determine among it how and when the seat is shared with the other cities. Over the past 3 years, this slide highlights our accomplishments. And so the first is our economic vitality accomplishment with $50 million in customer benefits back into the communities. This year alone, in 2021, we started a year in October, 2021 to 2022, $14 million set aside for energy programs back into the community. So when you were talking a little bit about the e-bikes, we actually have e-bike rebates for individuals served by us if they're looking for a for an e-bike. The second is our S&P A credit rating. We are the first CCA in California to get the A credit rating. Very proud of that. And this means that we can enter into long-term energy procurement contracts, which results in rate stability and lower costs for our customers. And so Central Coast Community assists the city in seamlessly providing you with beneficial benefits to your city residents and your businesses. And so we have a pathway to 100% clean and renewable by 2030. You'll see our goal of 60% by 2025. Those contracts are actually signed in place. And so at this time, we have the long-term contracts to reach our 60% goals, and we're working towards our 2030 goals now. This slide here reflects our historic rates. We are a public agency, so our board actually approves the rates. And so we started with a 3% discount, went to a 5% discount, and then when COVID hit in 2020, in March and April, we actually put 50% discount back on every customer. So from the smallest account to the biggest account, received a 50% discount on their bills in the month in 2020. And so this is how we actually think about returning the operating revenues back into the community. This here is a slide of our newest program. As of March of this year, we released a new service offering, which means that we no longer tie our rates to PG&E's generation rates. And so with our goal as an agency of providing predictable and stable rates over a 3-year period, this is the 4 goals that we put in place. And so for those of you that looked at your energy bill, in March of 2022, PG&E applied for a rate increase of up to 18%, and it was approved at the commission level. And so our rates are no longer tied to PG&E's, and so what's happening is with the new rates, our customers being served by us are actually seeing less energy costs on their bill. As a public agency, our operational revenues are reinvested back into rate reduction, rate stability, and our energy programs. And so as a Central Coast Community Energy customer, you're served by both PG&E and by us. So if there's any program at PG&E or with us, you actually can take advantage of the programs with both organizations. So for, let's say, like a city or a business that wants to put in EV chargers, we know that there's programs at the local utility. We also have programs that actually stack and tie together to make it easy for our businesses and our cities to actually put in infrastructure. And so this is an example of that program that I talked about. So this is called Electrify Your Ride, and it's a bucket of items. And so a business or a homeowner can choose what bucket they would like to pick their rebate out of first. So everything from let's say putting a panel in your home so you could have an electric charger, to actually rebates to purchase or lease an electric vehicle, and also for electric motorcycles. So like some police departments are looking at electric motorcycles, and things also like electric bikes. And so what we're doing is we continue to expand our energy programs and make them flexible so that the businesses and residents can choose how they want to access that money and in which order they can do so. And this is our newest program that we're very proud of. We have a program called Member Agency Services that we started early this year in 2022. And under that are actually programs that serve our member agencies, so our cities and our counties. And so, for example, this is the medium and heavy duty vehicle electrification program. And so the incentives are actually so that a city could actually get a new street sweeper. One of your members, agencies actually applied for an all-electric transit bus. And we have all sorts of medium and heavy duty applications coming in. And so we make this such that it fits the actual city's needs themselves. So we actually issue letters of intent. So if you're intending to participate, you submit an application, and then we issue a letter of intent, which allows you to actually go to the council and get approval and actually go buy the items ready to be delivered. The vehicle is ready to be delivered. At that point in time, we actually send a check to the city, or actually can send a direct to the vendor itself to pay for it. And so it's a big bucket of funds just for this program. It's up to $250,000 towards a vehicle. And so here are some of the city's data stats, like the gentleman was talking earlier about how do we actually measure and collect things. 98.38% of the residents and businesses in the city have decided to remain in service with us. And so you have 205 NEM, which would be like solar or battery customers, no agriculture, almost 700 commercial customers, and almost every city has a very large range of residential customers. And the interesting number on the bottom there, 446, is what's called CARE and FERA. Those are the discount programs that people are allowed to participate in. And so those programs are actually done through the local utility, but we honor all of those programs so we make sure that everyone gets all the different benefits that they deserve. This here is an example of actually how we actually participate in the community. And as of March 1st of this year, we submitted our Supplier Diversity Annual Report and our 2022 Annual Plan to the Commission. And we're committed to expanding access to clean energy and clean energy education across the communities that we serve. So in 2021, we saw customer webinars, public forums, Facebook Live events. We actually just had one this week, which we had 100 and some people participating in. And then we partnered and went into San Luis Obispo County, and we did a farm worker outreach program last year, which we continue to expand. And on March 31st, we held another farm work outreach event actually in Salinas. So we're making sure that the information gets out to every member of our community. And residential customers who receive electricity service from us, we are actually a page slipped into the bill. So PG&E still does the billing, they still do your meters, they still do the grid, but we're a page in the bill. And so if you reserve service from us and you happen to be a local vendor, you actually, actually not a vendor, excuse me, you happen to be a customer, we have an energy portal, you just type in your account number, and you can actually take a look and see if there's any other kind of programs or rates that might be beneficial to you. And then here we are on the vendor, so if you are a small or local vendor, please be aware that we have a vendor registry, which is on this website, and you can provide services to us. We make sure that we want to use and put our business out to the local community, so from printing to farm worker hats to all sorts of items, we use our local and small and local vendor registry. And lastly, we prefer a unified Central Coast. And so these are some of the key updates that are happening this year. So we want to say thank you for allowing us to serve you. And if you want to stay connected with us, we have Facebook and a phone number. We have a call center. And so if you have questions on anything, you can call our call center. We work with them weekly to make sure they're highly trained. And I want to say thank you to all of you for letting me present this evening. Any questions?
I do.
Are there any questions?
Go ahead.
I'm curious what the current status of the net energy metering process is through the 3CE.
Okay, so the net energy metering process is actually a contract on top of your agreement with PG&E. So PG&E sets the rates for the state of California with the commission, okay? And then the net energy metering sets on top of it, okay? And then what happens is your permission to operate, because you must be tied to the grid as a solar or battery customer, is approved through PG&E. We honor all of that so that as a net energy metering customer, you still get the same benefit and services. We also pay, so in the net energy metering world, there's about 44,000 customers across the Central Coast that are actually solar or battery customers. Of that 44,000, 95% of them are individuals, businesses and individuals and others, who actually use more. So they tie to the grid and they actually spend money each month. And we are on monthly billing now. And all of our commercial customers and agriculture customers have been on monthly billing for a while. Only 5% of the NEM customers actually overproduce. And that means that when, at the end of this year, if you've overproduced, the debits and credits that happen during the course of the day, that positive number, or what we call a credit, is a net surplus, and we actually pay more than PG&E, so you actually make more money for your net surplus. That number can go on your bill, and you can use it again for the next year.
If I recall, when 3CE was first presented, it was suggested that you would be paying a higher rate for that overgeneration than PG&E was. Is that happening now?
That is correct. It's called NSC, or net surplus compensation. We have always paid a higher number. So any kind of NEM customers always make more because they only get paid once a year. There's an annual true-up for solar, and they get paid more by us. So the answer is yes. We kept to that agreement, and we still do that, yes.
Can you tell me what the current status is of the PUC's idea of changing NEM and the way it works?
It's kind of going forward and backwards and forward and backwards. So there's lots of terminology. They were going to do something last year. It's called NEM 3.0 was the name of it. And then there was such a firestorm going on that the commission backed off again and said, we're not ready yet. There's too much going on. And then it was brought back to the table again as NEM revisited. And there was another firestorm because quite honestly, NEM customers have invested their own money most of the time and put their systems in. They're actually our most energy educated customers. They have the most amazing questions. They look at their bills. They're aware of what's happening. So they're a very, very educated and vocal group of customers, and it's served them well because the commission has backed off again. So we are still waiting to see what the commission is going to do.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Councilmember Clark?
I have a question. When Central Coast Community Energy made their first presentation to this council a few years ago, they said that our rates would go down, and by 2030, you would be providing all renewable energy. And so a year ago, Lena Williams made a presentation as well, and I said, well, we're 7 years away from 2030. Can you please tell me where this energy is coming from if we're not using Diablo Canyon? And apparently she said that you guys have made a commitment to not include large hydroelectric in your 3CE mix. So with Diablo Canyon out of the picture, with large hydroelectric out of the picture, where is 100% renewable energy going to come from by 2030 and our rates go down? Where's that energy coming from? She said, when I asked her, she emailed me, she said, well, in general, we have focused on purchasing our power from clean and renewable sources, which really didn't answer my question. Where is that energy going to come from in 2030 that's 100% renewable?
So great question, okay? We actually have contracts in place. So battery storage is another one that's coming up, which is, and it's not just like the 4-hour battery storage, it's like 24-hour battery storage or more. So it's actually addressing the duck curve. We have, when you look at our contracts, I would say almost all of our contracts are in California. We're not purchasing out of state and shipping stuff all over the place. We as an agency currently don't build stuff ourselves. We actually coordinate with other CCAs to get for big, really big projects, and are able to access the energy there. We do still have a little bit of hydro that I know in our, I think we do, but I will confirm that. Currently in our 100% renewable, so if you have a choice of what's the default or 100% renewable today, and currently in that's wind and solar. And so wind is a very different animal than solar is, and so they fit well together. And then you bring the battery storage into that, and you can actually serve 24 hours a day.
So in 2030, we're going to get 100% of energy from wind and solar?
No, that's not what I'm saying, because I'm actually not the power person. But what I'm saying is as of today, we have 60% of that. We have 60% of that number already contracts signed in place, and they're being built in the different places. And our power team is currently working on that remaining 40%. But since I'm not power, I can't tell you what those other contracts will be as they come to the table. I know that they will be 100% renewable. We're not buying RECs on the market. We're not buying, coal. We're not buying any kind of nuclear. That I know for sure. That's part of our mission statement.
That's why I voted against it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions at this time? All right. Guess we can just move back on to the next.
Thank you for letting me share this evening.
Thank you so much for your presentation. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Moving on to item number 4. Madam Clerk, would you please read item number 4 in this?
The consent agenda is designed for routine administrative city matters and is approved by roll call vote with one motion. These items are discussed only on request of council members. Members of the public were afforded an opportunity to speak on consent agenda items during the public communications portion of this agenda. Consent calendar 4A, approve order of agenda as presented. 4B, approve the minutes of the city council meeting of April 11, 2022.
All right, thank you. Are there any council members wishing to pull any items from the consent agenda? No?
What happened?
Got it all
We just
set?
got something to debate here.
Yes. All right.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Yep. Is there a
Second.
Okay, Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Clark,
Yep.
Mayor Pro Tem Infante,
Yes.
Councilmember Rona,
Yes.
Councilmember Thomas,
Yes.
Mayor Hurek,
Yes.
motion passes 5-0.
Excellent. That was a tough one. All right, moving on to item number 6 on the regular business agenda. Item number 5.
Wastewater treatment upgrade phase 3 recycled water policy direction. Receive staff report and direct staff to pursue a preferred alternative for recycled water or provide staff with alternative direction. Staff has analyzed the following options for council review and consideration. A, direct staff to pursue the construction of Phase 3 recycled water treatment system. Proceed with construction of Phase 3 along with Phase 2, but only proceed with installation of the cloth filters and disinfection processes at that time, allowing for discharge to percolation ponds. B, direct staff to pursue the construction of Phase 3 recycled water treatment plan. Proceed with construction of recycled water treatment system along with distribution system to irrigate Alisal Golf Course. C, direct staff to pursue the construction of Phase 3 recycled water treatment system. Proceed with construction of recycled water treatment system along with distribution system to irrigate Hans Christian Andersen Park. D, direct staff to pursue the construction of Phase 3 recycled water treatment system. Proceed with construction of advanced water treatment facility, AWTF, and distribution system to infiltration field for groundwater replenishment. E, direct staff not to pursue recycled water and continue with Phase 2 only.
Thank you, Anna Marie. So I'll kick off this item, and we also have Jose, our utilities director, here with us today, as well as Nathan, our wastewater supervisor, and our consultant from Corolla Engineering online with us today. This is an important item, an important discussion in discussing the policy direction moving forward with the wastewater treatment plant upgrade. This is the biggest project that the city of Solvang has undertaken in a very long period of time. As you would know, you have already given us direction on Phase 2, which will be the largest upgrade. Phase 1, which was the aeration system, has already been completed in this year. And Phase 3 is really the last direction that we are looking from you, which is also in alignment with the council goals, which we just discussed on February 26th, to pursue recycled water. As you would notice in this report, that recycled water does come with quite a bit of cost. So we have worked with Corolla Engineering to create these different options and show you what the options may be, and also some of the outstanding questions and the costs that go along with that. So depending on what direction you give us today, we'll work this direction into the preliminary financial plan presentation on May 23rd, and then continue on that path throughout the next 2 years. With that, I'll hand it over to Jose.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. As Zena stated, one of the goals for the city council presented to staff was to look into recycled water purchase, production, and the cost for that. So what we did is we reached out to Corolla Engineering to give us 4 scenarios on being able to produce recycled water. The first option is to produce Title 22 recycled water, but continue percolating into the pond. This will allow us to have the plant built with Phase 2 and 3 with the ability and capability in the future of producing into the distribution system if it becomes a requirement through the state or needed within the city. That is probably one of the best options, as it allows you to continue expanding, build those costs, today's dollars versus in the future year's dollars. The second option, which was to produce Title 22 water and distribute that water to Alisal Golf Course. We've been told already by the Alisal Golf Course that they do not want to utilize recycled water at this time. Again, if that was put into play, it could be an option for the future, depending on what our water situation is in the future. The third option was to be able to put in distribution to send recycled water over to HCA Park. We chose HCA Park as it is one of the largest parks within the city, and it does allow for the pipeline to be brought in through the city and tapped into for future use, whether it's the city park or if we decided to take it all the way to Sunny Fields, or if any of the schools decided that they wanted to purchase recycled water in the future as well. The fourth option, which is the most costly and probably the most prohibitive because it requires more treatment, more requirements from the state, is to build an advanced water treatment facility. That would allow us to produce water that is able to be used for direct potable reuse and put back into the ground in a percolation field upstream of our river wells and utilized by pumping it back out through the river wells. So as I mentioned, that is the most costly option at this time. But again, based on future demands and based off of what the future water situation is, it could be proven to be useful. So what we did is we asked Corollo to put together a slideshow for us, which we'll bring up right now. I'll go through the various slides and explain the different alternatives, ask any questions that you may have at that time as well. I have Mr. Jeff Wershire on the line as well. He's the representative from Corollo. He'll be here available to answer any technical questions pertaining to the study. And as Zena mentioned, we have Nathan in the crowd for any technical questions pertaining to our specific plant as well. Next slide. So the purpose of this slideshow and this presentation this evening is to review the different treatment and distribution alternatives for recycled water and any potential reuse of the water. We will be providing cost comparisons for each option as well this evening. Again, mentioned the four alternatives are to produce Title 22 recycled water with no distribution system, allowing for the recycled water to be placed back into our percolation ponds and continue in the same process we are today, allowing the water to percolate into the groundwater at the wastewater treatment plant. Option number 2 is to produce Title 22 recycled water and construct a distribution system to the golf courses. Again, as mentioned, we know that they do not want that water at this time. Option number 3 is to produce Title 22 recycled water with a distribution system to Hans Christian Andersen Park, bringing that line through the city all the way to the park. Option number 4 is to build an advanced water treatment facility plus an infiltration field, allowing us to percolate that water back into the ground for future use through our wells. With these four scenarios, the existing upgrades for phase 2 would also be required as well, and we'll review those options here as well. Some of the assumptions taken into consideration for these options are the costs are based on the original estimates that were provided in September of 2021 with the Recycled Water Technical Memorandum. With current inflation and supply chain issues, these costs could increase anywhere between 20 to 25%. So the costs presented today do not take into account the current inflation or supply chain issues that we have. All alternatives assume that phase 2 will be constructed and completed as well. The project cost included in this assumptions are 3.9% tax, 20% contractor overhead and profit, the 15% contingency, 10% construction management costs, and the 8% engineering costs. The wastewater treatment plant upgrade, which is phase 2, are inclusive of the following: addition of secondary clarifiers, new dewatering building, a new administration building, electrical and control upgrades, site improvements, and the aeration improvements, which have previously been completed. We finalized that project in January of 2022. In the chart at the bottom of this slide, you can see the projected cost to complete phase 2 comes in at about $7.44 million. Again, this is based on the dollars that was presented in the technical memorandums back in 2021. For Title 22 recycled water system, we would construct construction of additional treatment processes to meet Title 22 requirements for recycled water. That would include the construction of cloth filters for the turbidity removal and the chlorine tank and sodium hypochlorite disinfection system. In this chart, you can see the requirements that would be put in effect to produce Title 22 recycled water. You have turbidity, you have to have certain contact time with the chlorine to allow proper disinfection and deactivation, and also the total coliform numbers that have to be met to be able to produce Title 22 recycled water. So the installation cost just for a Title 22 recycled water treatment system would be for the cloth filtrations and for the CT basin and any electrical and instrumentation controls. You're looking at about $2.67 million just to be able to produce recycled water along with phase 2 completion. The next option is Title 22 recycled water with the distribution system to the Alisal Golf Course. We would have the same requirement processes. We would need to construct a 180,000 gallon reservoir, storage reservoir, and also have the capability of pumping approximately 1,200 gallons per minute pump station as well at the treatment plant. This would distribute the water to the Alisal Golf Course via the wheat field, which is right in front of the wastewater treatment plant. And there's a map to show this as well. So this is how the line would be constructed, coming from the wastewater treatment plant to distribute that water to the golf courses. Again, as we are aware, they are not interested in the water, but if this was to be put into play, it could be used for future option. The third option is installation of the recycled water treatment system with, all right, sorry, I'm jumping ahead here. These are the costs for constructing that system, which is the recycled water at the plant, 180,000 gallon reservoir, and the pump skid at the plant. That cost is about $7.21 million. Third option is to produce Title 22 recycled water and construct a distribution system to Hans Christian Andersen Park. This would include extension of the 12-inch distribution piping from the golf course all the way to Hans Christian Andersen Park. Here's a map displaying how that would be routed through the city. We would probably modify this map. As you could see, the pipeline takes off north of Alisal, then jogs west on Mission. I don't think that would be a viable or prudent option because it would require having to close down Mission. So we did mention that, and we would review that and modify that as well. So we'd probably do a jack and bore under Mission at some point, but we wouldn't probably necessarily have to shut down Mission at that time. But to construct that line all the way down Mission would not be viable. So we would review that. So to construct the distribution system to send the water to Hans Christian Andersen Park, you're looking at about $9.1 million for that option. Slightly above the amount of producing the water and sending it to the Alisal Golf Course. The included costs are just another 8,000 feet of pipe, I believe it was. So here's the most costly one because of the prohibitive measures that have to be met and the regulations for groundwater replenishment. This is construction of an advanced water treatment facility at the wastewater treatment plant and to send the water into the riverbed at an infiltration field just east of our wells. As you can see, there's a lot more requirements that need to be met on the treatment processes and through the state. Possible systems for disinfection and removal would be ozone oxidation or biologically activated carbon filters. Minimum required would be microfiltration or reverse osmosis. You would need UV lighting, which is a costly operation, and high maintenance required on those as well. You would need 2-acre infiltration field required to send the water back into the groundwater supply. That would be up east of our current well field. We'd have to be able to apply through the state for permitting for that as well, and probably get some agreements that we can put this water back into the ground. As you can see, here's the piping and how it would be routed. Again, I just want to remind everyone that this location where we have it is an assumed infiltration field location. This is not exact, as we would have to get a hydrological study completed to see where the most feasible and economical and efficient place would be to percolate back into the ground. It could be further east, it could be west, depending on what the hydrological study would show. Taking all that into account, the cost is approximately $29.57 million for this option. That's based, and Corolla based that off of about approximately $9 per gallon from recent potable reuse projects that have been conducted in the area at about 1,200 gallon per minute capacities. So the alternative costs take into account the wastewater treatment plant facility upgrades of phase 2, which was approximately $7.4 million. And as you can see, the 4 options, just for Title 22 water to percolate into the pond, you're looking at about 2.67. with the total cost of both options of about $10.11 million for that option. For Title 22 and saying the water to the golf course, you're looking at a total project cost of about $14.65 million. Option number 3 of distributing the water to Hans Christian Andersen Park and bringing that pipeline through the city, you're looking at about a total cost of about $16.54 million. And option number 4, which is percolation and replenishment of the groundwater system, you're looking at a total price tag of about $37.01 million. So what we've done is we presented 4 options for council. We're seeking direction from council on which option to include along with phase 2 to complete phase 3. I want to remind the council that we have contracted with Carollo Engineering to seek grant or low interest funding for this next step in the wastewater treatment plant upgrades.
That was one of my first questions. We are going for grants on this.
We are seeking grants and we're working with Carollo to either seek grants or low interest funding. Depending on the project that we move forward with, Carollo's already advised us that the grants that are out there may come into play based off of if we do some recycled water, and if we do not, the grants could be harder to find.
If I may continue with questions.
Yes.
Sorry, I just jumped right in. In some of the research that I had done, there are several other cities around that have gone through what looks like your basic system only, and then produced a, for lack of a better word, a big faucet, so construction companies could come in and fill their water trucks to go out and use in their construction, or the field, the farmers could use to water their fields. They could buy non-potable water directly from the wastewater treatment plant by driving over there. You know, it had to be a special kind of truck, and I forget the requirement on there, it has to be labeled, and there's a lot of requirements to it. But is that option considered?
That option would be considered with option number 1, and I am familiar with that process. As up in Los Osos, the wastewater treatment plant there, they do allow that option for construction water for truckers to come in. Again, that would be it could cost the trucking company and the people using the water. They'd have to be trained, certified to be able to use that recycled water. They'd have to train the end user on application of the recycled water. Also up in Los Osos, what they did do is bring 1 hydrant into town from the wastewater treatment plant, color it purple, use the purple piping, and allow construction water to be pumped from that hydrant as well. And for the city residents to be able to use that water as well if they so chose to do so.
Without
Sorry,
training?
tongue-tied. No, they would have to be required to be trained as well. They would have to sign off and understand what the waters consist of and how to apply the water.
That's under phase 1, right?
I'm sorry, sir?
That's under phase 1, right?
No, that would be phase 3, production of recycled water as well, if we went that route. But that could be included in the project if that's the route we decided to go. With producing the water at the wastewater treatment plant, there would be additional cost to construct a facility for truckers to come out there and be able to access the water. We'd have to consider the traffic along that road and going out to the wastewater treatment plant as well.
In your experience in the past where it has been done, did it pay off? Was it worth it?
It was rarely, and I say very rarely, used in Los Osos.
Really?
Yes.
The concept is good, though. I like that a lot.
If you have water, and people need water, but the problem is the truck has to be certified, it has to be labeled a certain way, it can only be used for that kind of water. I forget all of the requirements that I found when I did the research on it.
Yeah, it's interesting that once it's left the facility, you have to trust that it's going to be used for what they say it's going to be used for as well.
That is correct, and that's why they have to sign the waivers,
Yeah.
all that information as
Well,
well.
you wouldn't want to put it in your swimming pool.
Although you probably could. Would you get sick?
I can't say
Sorry, that was a joke. No, we shouldn't say that.
Yes.
Are there any other questions?
What is the lifespan of an advanced water treatment facility?
I would say, and Jeff can chime in if he'd like, I would say as any facility and any treatment facility, you're looking at probably the 25 to 30 year lifespan on a facility like that.
I'm just wondering, considering how much I mean, I know the cost is outrageous compared to the other options, yeah, I will say. But on the other hand, thinking about how much we spend every time that we have to purchase state water or whatever, I just wonder if it would pay for itself in that time span.
I don't think that we're talking apples and oranges. I mean, we would save on some cost that it would recharge the groundwater basin and we'd be able to pull it back out through any future river wells, hopefully that we have upstream. But you're still pulling the same amount of water. You may produce a bit more water because you're replenishing it, but I don't think you're gonna be able to completely replace the purchase of state water. So you may have some cost savings, but not substantial, in my opinion.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so.
So on the map of that particular option, we're replenishing water, looks like up where our current well is.
So that is east of our current well. I don't have a clicker, but I'll point on this screen right here for you. Right here are our current wells. Right on either side of the bridge there, we have 2 current wells.
Yeah.
Don't we have to give up one of those?
If we do get our hope to get the 2 river wells upstream, we would have to give up well 7, which is east of the bridge.
Right. So thinking down the road, why would we want to replenish that part and not do it over where we're actually attempting to drill? So we would save, the piping and all the other stuff. Keep it closer to home, so to speak, as opposed to going so far out.
There are requirements for being able to, where you have to put the water back into the ground. You can't put it directly right down into the well. So you have to have it upstream so that way it has the ability to percolate into the ground and travel into your aquifer.
Figured as much, but I thought I'd ask.
That's basically what we're doing now, isn't it? Putting it through the infiltration ponds?
Yes, but we're not getting any benefit out of that.
No, I understand.
Yes.
But
Yes, it is essentially the same thing, except here you would have a designated area for infiltration and it would be clean, potable, reuse water.
wow.
And then,
Go ahead, Jeff. Go ahead, Jeff.
But as soon as you designate that water that it is beyond just groundwater replenishment and it is potable reuse, that you intend to pull it out of wells that will be used for drinking water supply, there becomes with that a very a good set of regulations that then get applied, and that's going to include treatment requirements, travel time in the groundwater, how that water is treated when you pull it back out, and it takes quite a bit of effort to go through that process to demonstrate to the regional board how you're going to do it. That includes a lot of studies in the permitting phase. As Jose said, hydrogeologic studies. You have to have a certain amount of travel time through the groundwater, or through the groundwater, because you're using that as a natural filtration process. And what you have to think about are the things that are in wastewater that currently your permit does not require you to remove, and that is things like pharmaceuticals, cosmetics, things like that absolutely cannot be in your potable water supply, and that's why you have to have that advanced water treatment system. That's why you have to have a certain amount of distance between where you put it in and where you pull it out. What you're doing right now is just general groundwater replenishment, which is okay, which is a good thing for the environment. Is not providing you necessarily that same benefit, but is also not costing you nearly as much.
would you mind identifying yourself for everyone out there, so that people understand you're not just Joe Q Public out there?
My name is Jeff Weiser. I'm the project manager for Corps Engineers, working on the wastewater treatment improvement projects with Jose, with Nathan. I'm a licensed civil engineer in the state of California. I've been doing this for about 16 years now.
Thank you.
I'm also a vice president with the company.
All right.
Thank you.
thank you for that, and appreciate all your help with the guys out there and helping us fumble our way through this. I wanted to ask on the option for HCA Park, why does it have to go up Alisal and end up in the front of the park? Why could it not come down and go adjacent, just go over the bridge, because I understand it has to go over the bridge, but take it along Fjord and then go up the short side and hit the back end of the park? Is there a reason why it has to go all the way up Atterdag and?
There's no specific reason that it has to go that route. Actually, Nathan and I did discuss that route as well, because it could be a shorter route, and it allows you to be closer to the park as well. So that could be another route. Those costs would probably be dropped minimally, but
Yeah.
so we chose this route only because it was a continuation from the golf course, and it went upstream, and I figured if we put it that route, it would allow us, in the event that the schools decided that they wanted to tap in, that they could just tap in right off of Atterdag or something like that.
I was
That's
thinking that on there, but then I guess on the other thing, if it did go, are the 180,000 gallon or whatever
that reservoir is.
that reservoir, is that where the ending would be at the front of the park?
No, it would be at the wastewater treatment plant, and the reason why you would have it there is that would be your temporary storage prior to pumping it into your distribution system.
That's right, I remember reading that. Totally forgot. Go ahead, Mr.
What was the Alisol's objection?
Too costly, and they have their use of their wells, which is less prohibitive.
Makes sense, okay, thank you.
One other question, considering the HCA, that was a $9 million addition. And if I read this correctly, your Title 22 plus Hans Christian Andersen Park was a $9 million project. And I assume then that it takes the 2.6 system to get up to 9.1, the rest of it's all purple pipe?
Yes.
If that's the case, I'll go back to, if you put a pump out there,
Well,
and we had a city truck that could go to HCA and water the place, wouldn't that be a heck of a lot less expensive?
Well, that's also, we'd have to construct that reservoir and the pump station there at the plant for that option. So that cost isn't necessarily just the purple pipe, but the cost of the reservoir and the pumps.
But let's go back. If you put the pump out there, and we had a city vehicle that's licensed, and we got city employees that are trained and know what they're doing, can take water and go out and water HCA Park and Sunny Fields Park and whatever park we want to, because they have a water truck, wouldn't that make it cost effective?
It could, but it also could prove to be timely and costly for city staff, because you're gonna now be watering with the water hose versus
Hitting the sprinkler.
hitting the sprinkler systems.
Okay.
I like where you're going.
I keep trying.
Yeah, I know, it's good,
I want to recycle the water and I want to use the water. And I don't know how to do that without putting in this purple pipe everywhere that costs a bloody fortune. Sorry.
I appreciate that.
If I may, just, do you have anything else to add, Mr. Weiser?
No, I would just say that, recycled water can cost a lot, and, the more users you have for it helps bring that cost down. And if you can eventually identify more users, that can help, but, in the short term, looking at this, it's costly, it costs some money.
Nathan, today.
Well, like avoid, because we all want to recycle and do those things.
Have we approached like Mission, to where they do the cement stuff and utilize them possibly as a purchaser of recycled water? I'm assuming, mixing it with cement to make cement for all the trucks and everything, that it wouldn't need to be drinkable water or potable.
I'm unfamiliar with that process. Jeff, have you heard of that being a viable option?
Well, yeah, I mean, they're manufacturing concrete or cement, they're gonna need water, and there are a lot of industrial users that can take on recycled water, cement manufacturing, cooling towers, factories, those sorts of things. I would recommend, if you all really wanna get into that, a lot of times what we do are studies that, we would do like a recycle water study or master plan to go through who's in the city could potentially be the user, be that parks, schools, cemeteries, industrial users, and you can survey the city and start to find out who would take the water. HOAs often will take it for irrigation, and you can start to actually look at what your demand would be and start to compare that to the cost of what it would take to get the water to them, and that's the treatment facilities, the distribution pipe to get the water all throughout the city. You're going to need at least one reservoir because most of the time these folks are irrigating at night, and so it's not like they're going to irrigate throughout the day as you're producing that water, so you need to store it and then give it to them when they want it. And so if you do something like that, you can start to bring the cost per gallon to produce the water down because you're receiving fees back to it. And so you could think about if you really wanted to look at that, going into a study like that to really dive deep into what is the demand for the city.
I would think too, some of the high water users that are around just not too far away, cannabis farms, as well as some of the wineries, and why would we not want to provide them water? But you know, they're taking our water, they're taking our groundwater.
Yeah.
And to me, it's, if we can replenish, maybe that's a different way to replenish their groundwater or something, so to speak, but, I mean.
Real quick, if I could speak on that, Jeff, do you recall how much we were gonna be charging for the recycled water? Because I believe that was another issue for LSLs, that we were gonna be charging a substantial amount, which was more than the cost to use regular metered water.
Yeah, I don't recall that number right off the bat, but that's the struggle a lot of cities have, is farmers that have groundwater rights and wells. They're not gonna pay you for recycled water because the groundwater is typically cheaper unless there becomes a city ordinance to do so, or the groundwater starts running dry. And that's just the nature of it. And you see some cities do enact, you know, to protect the water supply for, you know, potable purposes, they will enact ordinances to require farmers to start using recycled water. And then, you know, that starts a whole other round of negotiations of, you know, what your rates are gonna be, and, you know, it can get heated, but sometimes that is deemed the right course of action. But that's something for the city council to really discuss and decide upon.
Also, if I can, just as well, Jeff and I mentioned that we're not required to produce recycled water in our current permit through the state, so it's not a requirement, it's not a regulation to do as well. So I just want the council to be aware of that as well, so that that can help with your decision this evening as well.
When does the Title 22 need to be implemented by?
I am not sure of that, Jeff. Do you know?
It does not need to be, your permit, your phase 2 improvements will not require you to do Title 22. That is a choice for the city to make. You could decide to just do phase 2 to get the wastewater treatment plant up to snuff and be done, and decide to look into recycled water at a later date.
I'm probably missing a whole part of this, but where's this money coming from?
And so, as we mentioned, we've contracted with Corollo to seek out grants or low interest financing. So it will be debt that the city will have to carry possibly.
In your opinions, as educated as they may be, do you foresee the state with all of the, I know just recently Governor Newsom has finally started to put together a state water task force where they're actually figuring out, you know, hey, maybe we need to cut back on our housing and all these other kind of requirements because, you know, you can't build anything if you don't have water. And we're not the only city that's experiencing this, obviously, so is there any hint that there might be something coming down from the state that might require cities to start implementing a recycling facility to be able to recycle water?
So just based on past experience, it's eventually gonna come down the road. I don't have a timeline, I couldn't predict that. Unless you have some other information, Jeff, do you have any ideas?
Well, what we're gonna start seeing, what's being talked about is Governor Newsom further looking to push cities to reduce water usage. Wastewater production generally follows that. So there is a likelihood that in terms of a gallon per day per capita, that he will continue to push for reductions there. In my own personal opinion, I think that's eventually going to butt heads with some of the housing problems we see in the state and in cities, and low-income housing availability and rents going through the roof. So I think he's going to continue to push for conservation, but there's limits to conservation. I mean, we're already, doing a lot in that regard. And so I think you're right, Mr. Mayor, in that when we run out of conservation steps, then you stop building homes or commercial buildings. But I think that'll run up against its own hurdles, and you're going to get two industries butting heads there. So I have not heard anything really on the state moving towards requiring recycled water or potable reuse. I think that is still being left up to individual cities to look at their water supply issues on an individual basis and decide the best step forward. But if we do hear anything, I can certainly report back to Jose. I can report to you folks.
Thank you.
If I may, okay, so we don't have to put the recycling in at all.
Correct.
Now let's, if we look at spending the money and putting in the $3 million approximately, just to put in the basics of it, so we can go to recycling in the future if we need to. I assume, because that's today's dollars or the next couple of years' dollars anyway, which is, yeah, okay. If that's the case, are we better off doing that much anyway to get prepared if we want or have to go to recycled water in the future?
If you're asking my opinion, yes, I believe that is probably the best option. We're paying for it in today's dollars, and in 10 years, if we're required, we just turn on the switch and complete the process. That's my suggestion.
That's
Or my opinion, not my suggestion, my opinion.
It's a powerful suggestion there, Jose.
It is.
All right. Are there any last questions?
Just that I'd rather do the minimum until we're forced, and I agree with Councilmember Monte. I like phase two, and it's a step in the right direction. I don't want to go into debt, and I don't want to just feel good about using non-potable water from a recycled source because it makes me feel good.
He said, do we need to go for a bond for this much money?
So even if you just do phase two and no phase three, or phase two and option one for phase three, it's, yeah.
10 million.
It would be debt issuance. So part of the work program that Carol is working on for us currently, in addition to researching any grants that we may qualify for, is really looking at the more realistic option, which is going for a state low interest rate loan. So that just gives, that still is a debt issuance. Yes, it would be a revenue lease financing based on our charges that we charge. We would be pledging the wastewater fund for that, but working through the state, you can get a more favorable rate, which we are expecting we may be able to qualify. One of the challenges that we're going to have with that, especially if we want to move sooner than later, is that they would require us to have at least 50% completed design, which needs to be funded with some other funding, which would likely have to be a pledge and a borrowing from the general fund to move forward with that.
Okay, so what's 50% design cost?
So it would be about $1.5 million approximately.
Okay. And what would it cost us on a per annum basis if we get a loan? We're gonna spend $500,000 a year, $1 million a year. What is that annual loan repayment cost?
It would.
I'm asking you rough.
It's very rough, yeah. I don't recall those numbers. We do have some of those estimates based on phase 2 in our utility rate study. But generally speaking, with repayment for 20 years or so, you would be paying probably about not doubling the cost, but probably 2/3 of the original cost. So there would be, with interest, a much larger total payment over those 20 years.
$1 million a year.
Probably close to that.
Can we do nothing?
When you say nothing, you mean not pursue phase 2 or phase 3?
Yes.
I think based off of the requirements at the treatment plant that we need to pursue, if we're not gonna do phase 2 or phase 3, there are some needed upgrades that need to happen there. And I would have to bring those back and get cost figures for that as well.
This would be blended in?
I'm sorry?
This would take care of some of the existing situations that you have there if we do approve phase 2?
If you approve phase 2, it would take care of all the required necessary issues
You need
right
to do
now.
anyway?
Yes, sir.
All right, that's very important, thank you.
Yeah, I think what we're looking at is phase 3, option A,
Yeah.
so that it gets it all the way to the spigot, which is simplest term. It's a great term, love it. Are there any last questions? Otherwise, I'll take it out for public comment. No other questions? Okay, well, any public comment? I don't have any speaker slips on this particular for anybody in-house. And go ahead. Please remember to identify yourself. Dennis, thank you.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, Dennis B.B. Solvang. Good evening, council members. Thank you for your service to the community. This is a tough one, but it sounded like your advice was it would be a good investment, but it doesn't produce any water, does it? It just produces a little higher quality water than what's now being dumped into a pond, I guess. My question is, a couple of questions. Is this Title 22 water adequate for firefighting? And Title 22.
Good point.
Would you go to a Title 22 step on your way to potable water? Is it a logical, phased approach that you would take to get to potable water? So this investment that we've discussed, maybe $3 million, would enable you to do any one of the other options. Pipe it elsewhere, hydrant it, or even go to potable water. So this would be the first step anyway, wouldn't it? And also would ask, what kind of timing are we talking about for this decision? Does it have to be a decision tonight, or can we kick this particular Title 22 project down the road? I wasn't sure based upon the discussion. That was it.
Jose, if you'd answer that.
Yes, producing and starting the process for the Title 22 and just having the Title 22 there would allow us to, again, turn on the faucet and move forward with any of the other 4 options or other 3 options in the future. As far as firefighting, because it's applied on residences or other areas, do you have any knowledge on that, Jeff?
Yeah, so, hi, this is Jeff Weiser again. So typically reclaimed water is not used for citywide firefighting efforts because fire flow demands are typically very high and very immediate and rapid. And usually that type of flow is supplied by reservoirs throughout a city. Your wastewater plant is producing about 1 MGD on a regular basis. You can only store so much of that, and if a large fire breaks out, having the volume you need to fight that fire, it can be difficult to be supplied by that, whereas your water distribution system is already circulating throughout the entire city, typically multiple reservoirs. Planning on the water side includes analysis of fire flow demands throughout the city, and that then is brought into identifying how much storage of water you need throughout the city. And fire flow demand is a lot of times one of the biggest factors in determining how much reservoir storage you need throughout. So it's really not typically used. If it were to be used, aside from regulation standpoints, it would require a pretty significant infrastructure investment in order to be able to do so.
There was another question asked as far as, do we have to make a decision this evening? Staff is asking for council to provide direction so that way we know what direction to go in with seeking funding for phases 2 and 3. So we would need a decision.
Are there any other questions in-house? Nathan, did you want to say? No? Okay,
The only thing I had was that
come on up.
you guys were asking what it would cost to produce recycled water. The number was $1,500 to $2,000 an acre foot. That's what we discussed in the past, so.
1,500 to 2,000 an acre foot.
Yep.
We're currently paying about 500 or 600 an acre foot?
Right. And CJ can pump water for about $100 to $150 an acre foot.
Yeah, CJ's got, they got a lot of water. Yeah, I understand. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Nathan.
Thank you, Nathan.
I don't have anyone else wishing to speak in-house, so I'll take it out to Zoom. And it looks like Nancy Emerson. I see a hand raised.
Nick DeCroce will speak for WeWatch.
Hello, the City Council. Thanks for the opportunity to present our own recommendation. We have followed this project for a couple of years now, and I'm glad to see it's perhaps coming to a head. WeWatch is a local organization, both educational and advocacy, and we would recommend that the city take on the A item of directing the staff to pursue the construction of phase 3 recycled water along with phase 2 and stop at that point, since it does allow not only for the improvements that need to be currently made, but it also would open up and allow us to go to recycled water at some future point, should we decide to do it, but not spend the money at this point. So that is our recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And is there anyone else wishing to speak out in Zoom? I don't see any other hands raised. Is there anyone on the phone? No one on the phone, okay. All right, seeing none, we'll bring it back for final comments and a motion.
Can we see how we do on funding options and then take a decision?
I think you could, so the project right now has been delayed a little bit in the plan because of where our wastewater fund is. So we have it kind of penciled in through the rate study and all of our planning a couple of years out. It depends on how quickly we want to start moving forward towards phase 2 and phase 3. The more we know, the more focused we can be on our applications. For example, to apply for the SRF loan with the state, it will need to be, like I said, we would need to move forward with the design study, in which case we need to have a precise option. If you didn't want us to move forward with a precise option today, all we could do is basically continue to kind of explore options on the grants, which will probably be not as productive, because obviously programs are very different and we need to kind of have a little bit of a definition as to what we're pursuing in order to be able to start getting those applications in.
Any final comments?
Personally, I think we should move. We have to finish the wastewater treatment plant phase 2. I don't think there's any question in that at all. And then within the alternatives, the basic facility upgrade. So I would make the motion that we move to approve phase 2 completion, and within phase 3,
The option
option A, thank you, that says we'll have enough to keep it going if we can in the future. And then we'll go out and see what we can get for money.
A. Is there a second to that motion?
It was a long motion.
I think just accept option A as reported.
Reservations, but I will second that.
Madam Clerk, please take a roll.
Councilmember Clark?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Infante?
Yes?
Councilmember Aruna?
Yes.
Councilmember Thomas?
Yes.
Mayor Urick?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you all for your work.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Nathan.
Appreciate it, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff.
Nathan.
Good talking to you.
Thank you, everyone. I'm sorry I couldn't be there this time. I'll see you at the next one.
You're good. We appreciate it.
All right, moving on to item number 6. Madam Clerk, please read item number 6.
Reimbursement request pursuant to section 10010F of the Elections Code. Authorize the city manager to pay $30,000 in legal fees reimbursement to Shankman and Hughes PC upon receipt of release of claims.
Pass it on directly to city attorney to present this report.
Council.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I'm not quite sure how to sugarcoat this, but under the California Voting Rights Act, the city received a letter from the Shankman Law Firm regarding the district elections. This letter was received back in 2020. City Council at that time opted to move forward with the district elections. We've just finished that process at the City Council level by adopting an ordinance that will put that into effect for the 2022 elections. Under Election Code Section 10,010, subsection F, a party who sends that letter to the city is entitled to recover the costs and fees for that process. Mr. Shankman is well known throughout the state for sending these letters. He has generally been the first party to send these letters to all sorts of public agencies, and almost uniformly throughout the state, the request has been $30,000 because that's the maximum allowed by the statute. So we're not in really a very strong position to say no to this. Mr. Shankman has provided the release form that I requested from him. It's included in your packet. With the payment of this amount, we will be off the hook, so to speak, for any additional fees. Section 10,010 does have a provision that is the maximum amount that the city would have to pay, even if there are multiple people who decided to send that letter in and they came up to a total of $30,000. So, like I said, it's hard to sugarcoat that one, but that's where we are. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Are there any questions of the?
Yeah, I have a question. He is saying that he did all of these studies and analysis, and we're stuck with a $30,000 bill. Did we ever see these? We're gonna be paying for them at the very least?
So those would likely have been done as attorney work product in preparation for filing litigation. The original letter that Mr. Shankman sent was fairly detailed as to the analysis of the racial makeup of the city and so on. So I suspect that there was a demographic study done to enable him to write that letter. I don't have any reason to question whether or not it was done. My gripe, if you would like to hear it, is $725 an hour for legal work is well outside the area
average, I would say. That buys a lot of attorney in the San Ynez Valley, but Mr. Shankman is from Malibu. The rates are going to be higher down in that area. And we don't really have a good way, absent saying no and going into litigation, fighting over that. I will say that for the amount of money that would be involved in going to court and fighting over that, $30,000 is going to be cheaper.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions
I'll wait for comments.
or comments?
You want comments?
I'd like a comment.
First of all, this law office is not an office. It's a $6 million house in Malibu. A guy comes from the East Coast, sets up shop, hires a couple of drones to look at databases and find out what the demographics of cities are in California. And then he Googles the city council and looks for Hispanic names and then sends a letter and makes $30,000 a pop. And it's disgusting. You know, I just finished a book about an attorney in Texas named Michael Pollara. And in the town he grew up in, there was a State Department employee that was killed in the former Soviet Republic of Georgia. And a soldier was convicted and sentenced to prison because he was drunk and he shot something and they pinned it on him. Well, it's a long, long, complicated story. But this man spent hundreds of thousands of dollars of his own money in 10 years to clear an innocent man in another country because it was the right thing to do. And Mr. Altruistic down in Malibu sends letters to cities like us and extorts us for $30,000. And it's disgusting, absolutely disgusting. Thank you.
Are there any other comments? Seeing,
I'll be writing a letter to whoever came up with this bullshit.
Do we have a 3-second delay?
let's bring it back. All right. Yeah. Barring any other comments, I'll take it out for public comment at this time.
What they said.
I know. And none in-house, so if there's any on Zoom at this time.
I guess maybe because the guys going after the handlebar in the bathroom in the ADA place is a little too crowded, so we had to think of something else to work on. Welcome to California, loser. Jeez.
All right, we'll bring it back. And there's no comments out in Zoom, none on the telephone. Bring it back for the final and a motion.
I'll move, we pay the $30,000.
Hesitantly, but a motion. Is there a second? I'll hesitantly make a second. Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Clark,
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Infante,
Yes.
Councilmember Arona,
Yes.
Councilmember Thomas,
Hesitatingly, yes.
Mayor Urick.
Begrudgingly, yes.
Motion passes 4-1.
That's just because it would cost us more.
Yeah. With that, are there any reports or final council closing comments? Actually, we're just gonna stick to the reports at this time. And I will adjourn the meeting at 8:34.